You're tuned in to Ask the Master Auto Technician. Car questions? Get answers right now. Call 850-763-0555.
James Auto Center, we fix it right, guaranteed. Beep, 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 yeah.
All right, good morning, everybody. I'm going to say it's bright and early, but it's just early. It's not bright, it's dark outside. I keep reminding myself that, well, one day when, the time changes, which is any day now, well, yeah, pretty soon, it'll be light when I'm here, and it'll be bright and early, and probably cool. But right now, it's warm, it's dark, and it's early. Anyway, if you got a car question, give us a call, 850-763-0555. What do you want?
I want to say again, remember, people, when the temperature drops, so does the pressure in your tires. My TPMS light was on this morning.
I was wondering why you parked your car right in front of the air hose. Now I know why. Yeah, that's a good segue to go into it. As the temperature drops, the air pressure in your tires drop. All cars from 2008 to present have what's called tire pressure monitoring systems. Those systems, they are very sensitive, and if every 10 degrees of temperature you drop, you lose a pound of air. So if it's 80 degrees outside and you've got 35 pounds of air in your tires, and if you drop 30 degrees, you've lost at least 3 pounds of air. There's a possibility your TPMS light may come on for a few minutes until you drive it, and as the tires warm up, the light will go off. So keep that in mind. If you see that, it just means there's something you need to look at. It doesn't mean to freak out. It just means walk around your tires, your car, before you continue driving to make sure they're not on the rim. Do not drive a tire flat. You drive a tire flat, you're going to ruin the sidewalls of the tire, and then you get to pay over $100, maybe $200 to fix it. Even more if you damage the TPMS sensor. So just giving you a heads up on that. If you see a light, get out, walk around your tires, make sure they're not flat, then go to your nearest shop and have them check the air in your tires. I got Rob Lapham calling all the way from Port St. Joe. Rob, I want to talk about the rule of government. What is the purpose of government? Not the rule of government. What is the purpose of government? That's one of the questions that was asked to me yesterday, and a lot of people have different views of what government is. Some people think the government is the ends to meet all the needs of the people, supply for defense. I mean, what is the purpose of government, in your opinion?
I will answer that question, James. So before I do,
all right.
I have run flat tires on my Mini.
Well, because you don't have a spare tire. That's why.
Well, that's true. That's true. But I just wanted to offer an uneducated minor correction to don't run your tires flat.
Well, it's true because you did have a TPMS light on your car, and I know you'd go around and look at the tires going, why is my light coming on? Come to find out, where you live is a fishing community, and you had run over a fishing line with a hook on it, and it had wrapped around your axle, and it pulled one of your sensor wires loose or something, I think. It's incredible.
Well, anyway, back to your original question, the role of government.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, we have the Constitution, and it's quite clear that there is constitutional authority mandated, in fact, to raise the troops. You need to protect the country, so national defense is a constitutional requirement. The other principal one, where it says that the federal government has the responsibility to print the money, I'm sure they don't mean what the Federal Reserve is doing today. I believe what is meant is to provide a uniform, valid method, real currency, anyway, to protect that. But beyond that, the role of the federal government is to protect contract property rights. We're really talking the courts here, so that free enterprise can flourish. The other part of your question is, or at least perhaps the questioner was asking or wondering what the role of the federal government is in terms of providing all of these other things that they do today. There's no constitutional authority for them. The list is so long. In fact, if we went down the list of the 15 federal government departments, the 15 cabinet level departments, I'm believing that every single one of them performs functions that is not supported by the Constitution. And I'm just getting my alphabetical list out in front of me. I'm just going to read 15 names, and there's not a single one, with your permission, not a single one that has constitutional authority for all of the things that it does. If we go down and look at each of these departments, agriculture, commerce, defense, again, we do need to raise the troops, but defense does a lot more than that. Education, energy, health and human services, homeland security, housing and urban development, interior, justice, labor, state, transportation, treasury, and Veterans Affairs.
Wow.
Every single one of those 15 cabinet-level departments performs functions that are not authorized by the Constitution.
So-
And hey, I'll say pick any one, and we'll dissect it and identify things that not only should not be done, but frankly should be eliminated.
Well, let's talk about the Department of Education. We've had the Republican Party jumping up and down for years talking about how we're going to make school boards more accountable local and not tied to federal and state funds so much where they have to do what the state says. You know, like Common Core. Everybody talks about, well, we don't have Common Core in Florida. And I go, yeah, we do. It's just called Florida Sunshine Standards. It's just another name they put on it. You know, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it must be a duck. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to Sunshine Standards. It's Common Core, whether you like it or not. Now, the question remains is this what our children need? Maybe that's what they need. Maybe it's not. But it needs to be. The federal government is mandating that states do this. If the states don't do this and bring it down to the local level, there's no federal fund money coming back. That doesn't sound constitutional to me, but it sounds like the power of centralized government telling us what to do.
Correct on both accounts. Education is kind of interesting because it's the newest federal department, the newest one to be created, if you ignore the amalgamation of so many agencies into Homeland Security. Mm-hmm. So education was organized as a new federal department 36 years ago, under Ronald Reagan, as a matter of fact. So, you know, the guy wasn't perfect by any means. He split education off from the Department of what was then Health, Education, and Welfare, Cap Weinberger's last assignment as a department secretary. And in that time, in the last 36 years, James, the Department of Education has spent $1.5 trillion. Ooh. And our kids' rankings compared to the other development countries continues to drop over those 3+ decades. So number one, it hasn't worked. And when you look at what, and you've referenced this before on paying out 13 cents and only getting 11 cents back, or that type of thing, the regulatory burden for school districts to comply with everything the Department of Education wants produces a net loss to the school district, according to some calculations. Well, that doesn't work. There's only one function that the Federal Department of Education performs that has some merit, in my opinion, and that is they do manage the curricula in the overseas school districts for dependents of U.S. personnel, military personnel. Right. So when you are transferred from Japan to Germany, for example, your kids pick up where they left off and don't have that. I mean, obviously, basically 3-year rotations. There's a lot of that movement going on.
There is.
And that function could be, frankly, turned over to the Department of Defense. Yes. Since all of the recipients, the students, are dependents of military personnel. And at least for the time that we keep troops overseas, that's a separate issue. We ought to bring them all back home. But the Federal Department of Education doesn't really have a use, and it is. Education has traditionally been a local activity, funded locally. Parents should be deciding what curricula their students their children are learning. With today's social media and the ability to broadcast good results, experiments in some school districts that really pay off. The information flow is really fast across any other school district in the country. And the rationale for a Federal Department of Education escapes me. It should be shut down.
Let me give a comparison of how technology has changed, transforming education as well. Let's use taxi cabs for an example. If someone wants to use a taxi cab, they make a phone call, they have to wait. Same thing it's been for the last 100 years, so to speak, maybe even longer than that with horse and buggy, for them to get where they're supposed to be coming on. We have Uber and Lyft, which is a new technology that uses your smartphone, which can actually give better service, better quality, cheaper, faster, safer rides, and yet it's people say, no, we don't want to have that. Well, even education. Right now, the brick and mortar schools, to be honest with you, are really outdated. We could be doing the same things much better, much cheaper, much faster without having to transport students in large numbers on buses and everything by using the internet, by having home-based schools in the area where maybe people show up at a community center if they don't have where we don't have to have these big schools and everything. Now, I don't know if that sounds reasonable to some people out there because they're going to say, well, my kids won't get socially indoctrinated. Well, if they want to learn how to buy drugs, send them to a public school, I guess. But, it seems like homeschool, it seems to me the public indoctrination does more harm to students out there than the students that I see that are going through homeschooling. I talk to homeschool students that are in 9th and 10th grade, and they're like blow me away on their ability to understand what's going on around them. They're able to balance a checkbook. They're able to do the things that most high school graduating seniors don't even have an idea how to do. And these guys are in the 9th and 10th grade. They're 2 to 3 years ahead of most high school students. Now, I may be speaking completely wrong. People out there, teachers may be looking at me going, no, that's all wrong. Well, what I have seen in the public schools as a volunteer over the years is a lot of wasted motion, a lot of vibration, a lot of movement, but no direction. And I think it needs to be brought down to the local level. And I'll be honest with you, I think the brick and mortar schools should go away from what we've been doing, and that needs to go away, just like the taxi service needs to go away and be deregulated, where Uber and Lyft can come in and they're both on the same playing field. Do the same thing when it comes to schools. Have charter schools, have home schools, have these brick and mortar schools where everybody is on the internet, and it works a lot better. It's a lot cheaper, and people get a better education, I think. Now, that's what they're doing in Finland and Scandinavian countries, having a wonderful results, and their test scores are off the chart compared to America. Your thoughts, sir?
Sure. Well, number one, just on the minor, on the Uber option, I forget where I saw it, but isn't that activity, or is that being considered right now in Lynn Haven?
Yes, it was. It's in today's paper. I talked to Margot Anderson a couple of weeks ago after a county commission meeting. I said, Margot, why don't you be the first person in Bay County to offer ride sharing for Uber? That way the other municipalities will have to accept it as part of the reciprocity agreement. And she looked at me and said, is that all we got to do? And I go, I think so. Why don't you check with the city manager and see what happens, and the city attorney.
I'll keep my fingers crossed.
I am. I'm excited.
Like
I'm excited about this. This is wonderful.
Now, in schools, I mean, everything you say is not only makes sense, but it can be costed out specifically. There's a certain amount of money, and I believe that the Bay County School District can give you that number. There's a certain amount of money that the government spends, our tax dollars, of course, spends on each student. It's so much a year, 10,000, 5,000, whatever it is. There's a certain number per year. And you can, with a pencil and a piece of paper, you can envision the following situation. Here is, for example, a mom who is interested in education.
We got 1 minute. 1 minute.
Who is interested in being basically a homeschool teacher. And we might assume that in that particular house there might be, 3 or 6 computers. I mean, this is designed for education here.
Right.
The curricula are all available online, K-12. I mean, the information's there. And this mom might take in as an area homeschool option for parents for their kids, might take in, say, 12 kids.
Right.
And that might be the size of the class. And you look at the numbers involved, even including the cost of the technology, and the cost per student will be less than we are spending, again, at the brick-and-mortar school. The brick-and-mortar school, that's just part of it. That's the physical infrastructure that costs however many $1 million to build and to maintain. And then you have all of the government overhead and teacher union mandated labor costs associated with that. And the costs there are going to be far higher. So
Rob,
as an economic
we got to go. We got to go. But like you said, I agree. We're going to talk more about this next week if you can. Thank you so much for calling. This is James Morris along with Anna Marie Morris. We got to go. We got Brian Armstead calling all the way from Maryland. He's going to be talking about the Ford Focus EcoBoost. We'll be right back.
James Auto Center, we fix it right.